Welcome to Conversations with Character. I am here with Sammy Tejada, who is the author of How to Win in Modern Wellness. It's a really cool book that teaches you a lot. He interviewed a ton of people to do this book. We want to get into that, but we're also going to get into his story, man. Let's start at the beginning, Sammy. How old are you? Where are you from?
So I'm 37 years old, and I'm originally from Dominican Republic, but raised in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Wow, that's a drastic change.
That's a big shift, man. That's a big shift, you know. Dominican and Wisconsin, man. That's a little unheard of.
Yeah, you got to be like the only one.
Yeah, pretty much.
What brought you, how old were you when you went to Wisconsin?
So I was small. I was very, very young. I was 8 months old, youngest out of 4 kids. You know, where my parents, they had to make a decision. You know, there was certain like immigration laws that were happening, and they had the opportunity to, you know, migrate here to the United States. And, you know, you're talking about 2 very well educated professionals who had their master's degrees in as architects, successful business in Dominican Republic.
Wow.
Where they had to make that decision if they wanted to come here to the United States, you know, to give us a better life.
Yeah.
To live that American dream, if you will.
How old was your oldest sibling when y'all moved?
So he's 7 years older.
Okay. So, I mean, what was that like? Like, I know you never really knew life in the Dominican, but tell me about growing up in Wisconsin.
Well, you know, being first generation is always still a challenge. Yeah. And the reason why is I have two parents, you know, mom and dad, who move over here, who don't speak the language. Mm-hmm. You know, they're about my age, you know, between 35 and 37 years old, which till this day, you know, I always say, man, if I had 4 kids, you know, which I don't have any kids, but I'm thinking to myself, if I had 4 kids, would I just make the decision up and leave to a country that I don't even speak the language? The answer is no, I probably would not. So, you know, kudos to them to making that decision. So coming here, you know, and basically starting all over again, where, you know, my mother was working part-time at a grocery store, you know, stocking the shelves. My father was doing things that was outside of his line of work. Man. You know, eventually they got back into what their career paths were as architects, but, you know, definitely very challenging. You know, growing up, I learned everything going through grade school in English. At home, everything was in Spanish. So my vocabulary growing up wasn't as strong in neither of the languages, right? Because in school, they weren't teaching me Spanish. And at home, I wasn't really getting help with English. So, you know, it had its, you know, several challenges, but, you know, that's where we learn and kind of develop from that.
Sure. And like you're saying, being first generation is different no matter what, because as you're growing up, I mean, you're translating for your parents, you're helping them a lot in a lot of ways. They would typically be helping you. What'd you do about after high school age?
After high school age?
Yeah.
So, you know, when I graduated high school, I knew exactly what I wanted to do for a living. And, you know, in high schoal, I was actually a full-time lifeguard. I actually worked for the YMCA. You know, mid-year, actually it was the start of my senior year in high school. My parents decided to relocate business, and they moved from Wisconsin down to Florida. Oh, wow. You know, Broward County, Fort Lauderdale. So I moved down my senior year in high school, which was not the easiest thing to do. You know, you got all your friends and stuff that you grew up with, and you're just moving your senior year in high school. And I worked for the YMCA in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And when I moved down to Florida, I ended up transferring to the YMCA in Boca Raton. So I was able to maintain my lifeguard job, became a swim instructor. And that actually led me to start working, you know, seasonally for ocean rescue. So I was into like saving lives. So, you know, when I moved down to Florida, I found out that they had, you know, the fire department down here was firefighter paramedic. There were people that were duly trained. That was the requirement. And, you know, me working for ocean rescue and being a lifeguard, it was like a perfect transition. It was like the next thing. And, you know, most other states, being a firefighter, a lot of times is voluntary. You know, you do it as a volunteer. Right. Down here in South Florida, it was it's a career. You know, it's paid, you know, salary, pension, the whole 9 yards. Where I said, you know what, that's what I want to do. So right out of high school, went straight into EMT, paramedic school, went to the fire academy, knocked it all out within 18 months.
Wow.
Maybe even less. Actually, I think it was 13 months.
Wow.
And, I was very fortunate. I got hired with the City of Oakland Park Fire Rescue, which is in Broward County. And at the age of 20, I got hired as a firefighter paramedic, saving lives.
Wow. And how long were you for a firefighter?
So I was a firefighter up till the age of 32, so 12 years. Got vested in the pension after 10. And the reason why I ended up retiring is, my business that I started as a part-time gig on my days off from the fire department, really took off, and it needed me to focus, full-time into the business. So I had no other choice but to actually retire and focus on my company, Liquavita.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have.
It is. It's you got a city job, working for city government, you got good job security, pension benefits, medical benefits, you got a salary that's coming in that's always growing. So, making that commitment to leave that secure job, when you come from an immigrant family, it's all about getting educated and finding job security.
Sure.
So making that decision to leave the fire department, listen, I had family members that thought I was crazy for making that type of decision. But most entrepreneurs, this is what we do, man. We got to take that risk.
Absolutely, man. Tell me about your time in the fire department, though.
Yeah, great job, man. I met some of my closest friends in the fire department, true brotherhood, It's a job when you always talk to firemen, especially back then, but we try to kind of like man up and talk about, how it's the greatest job in the world. And what people don't talk about and they forget to talk about is the negative stuff that comes with that job. The things that you see when you get called out on your 911 calls, you're seeing the worst of the worst, the things that people dread ever having to experience in their life. And, you're seeing that every third day for sometimes up to 30 years. So it was a great job. I learned a lot from it. I got exposed I got exposed to many different things, and I've learned from it. It's given me a certain level of life experience that you would not get anywhere else.
And Liquavita is a modern wellness company?
Yeah, so Liquavita is a health and wellness company. Our mission is to help people feel energetic, youthful, and in control of their health. So part of that is we offer a bunch of different services and modalities to help people, take care of their health, take it more of a proactive and preventative approach to their health and wellness versus what we're so used to, which is more reactive medicine. In the world of healthcare, it's been more reactive medicine where we wait until people get sick and then try to take care of them by, basically taking care of their symptoms, never the root cause. So we take a little bit of a different approach where we're doing a lot of different diagnostics without people being sick and then making sure people are within their optimal levels.
So you're a firefighter and you start this health and wellness company. I'm sure that's not a real common transition for firefighters to go to. What made you go that direction?
Believe it or not, most firemen, because we work these unique schedules where we work 24 hours on and then we're off 48 hours. Most firemen are supplementing their income, doing some kind of side hustle. Some of the guys work at the hospital on their days off. Other guys have pressure cleaning businesses. And then other guys are personal trainers or do stuff in the health and wellness arena. So it is common for firefighters to have a side hustle. A lot of them have businesses. Now, obviously, I was a one-man show when I started Liquavita. It was just going to be something to supplement my income. And it was just a business that started growing legs, where eventually I says, man, you know what? I think I got something here. Let me see what I can do. Let me try to take it to the next step.
You were about 28, 29 when you started it?
Yeah, I've been in business for about 10 years. So 10 years exactly, actually a little bit over 10 years now. So I was about 26, 27. Yeah.
How exactly did it start turning a profit? Like, I know about your book and everything, but that was before the book. So how did that start turning a profit?
So, it started turning a profit right when I opened up. So because I utilized a whole different strategy, to start the business. What I did is when I started Liquavita, I started as an IV vitamin therapy company.
Okay.
Where we take vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and deliver it into the bloodstream. And what ended up happening is I got exposed to a few clients that were getting these type of services done in their homes in like California, Colorado. These are very affluent patients that I had with another part-time gig that I was doing at the time with a health and wellness company. And these people would start telling me about how they would get these vitamin IV drips back at their, vacation home or their cabin, Colorado. And that the guy that would actually do the IV drips was a off-duty firefighter paramedic. So once I had a few of these people tell me about it, I said, you know what, let me see what this is all about. And I started like researching, and I saw what was my competition back then. A lot of them are my customers now. And I said, you know what, I could do what they're doing, but I could do it better. So, what I ended up doing, and this is going to your question about turning to profit, I said, man, how am I going to go ahead and start this business on a fireman's salary?
Right.
Firemen don't make that much money. So what I did, I found a doctor who had a beautiful wellness center, a clinic, that he was a chiropractor. And he integrated Eastern medicine with Western medicine. So he had a lot of stuff like acupuncture, chiropractic, but he would do a lot of like PIP cases, the personal injury cases, so he had a medical doctor there that would do certain treatments, some regenerative medicine. And I remember walking over there and I told him, I says, hey, just like any other doctor, they always have extra rooms that are just collecting dust. And I went over there and he had a nice big size room with all this physical therapy equipment. And the physical therapy equipment was never being used because he didn't have a physical therapist. So I told him, I says, hey, listen, there's this new IV vitamin therapy stuff. I think it'll do very well with all of these other wellness modalities that you have. And I gave him a proposition. I says, how about this? How about if I go ahead and clear that back room, I'll figure out how to move all that equipment. You give me that space. You have the medical oversight. You have all the front desk staff. And what I do is I invest and put some chairs back there and buy the initial supplies. And I'll give you 20% of any of the business that I do. And I focus and I operate the whole business. So now I got into business. I'm not paying rent, right? I'm not paying for utilities. I'm not paying to have a medical director. I'm not paying for front desk. All I'm doing is I'm paying to get some chairs, and I'm paying through sweat equity to work the business. So, boom, became profitable. The cool part too is I tapped into all of his patient base. So I already had a whole patient base. So I was able to start growing the business like that. And then eventually I started noticing when I started seeing patients come in for these vitamin IV drips, people were driving like an hour and a half to come get these vitamin drips.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that's why I said, listen, man, if people are driving an hour and a half to get this strip, I got liquid gold.
Yeah, I got some here.
So, yeah,
that's genius. That's a brilliant way to start a business.
So Liquid Vita, I started it with $500 in my back pocket. And fast forward 10 years later, we're this multi-million-dollar company. I haven't taken any outside injection of capital. We've been self-funded, and we've just been making it happen.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. When did you decide that you're going to write this book?
So the book, we're talking about this book, How to Win in Modern Wellness. So this book, as you can see, all of these faces on the book. So all of these faces, these are actually my competitors. These are people that are leading the industry. So when I got into the industry, I decided to not go the cutthroat mentality. A lot of the other, wellness centers, med spas, and, doctors that were doing this, they had that cutthroat mentality against the competition. And what I said, you know what? Doesn't make any sense that we're all out here chanting, hey, we want to change the course of medicine, taking that proactive preventative approach, right? But then we're at each other's throats. How are we going to change the course of medicine?
Yeah.
You got to create that one strong voice. So what I did, I said, you know what, I'm going to start building some strong relationships with other people in the industry. And, fast forward 10 years later, almost 10 years later, it was about 9 years later, I hired a publicist, and I was telling the publicist my story. And the publicist said, Sam, you gotta put this, put this stuff in writing. You gotta put all of these sharp minds in a book. And I said, man, that's a good idea. Yeah. So I reached out to all of my connections, all of my contacts that are leading the industry. And I told them, hey, listen, I want to go ahead and talk about how we're all winning together in this world of modern wellness, and educate the people, educate the medical practitioners that are trying to get out of the traditional system. And have a tool, this book, have a tool to help them out, to let them know what we've gone through and what we're doing. So that's kind of what led me to put the book together, and it's been a hit. It's been successful. It's just a few weeks ago hit Amazon bestseller in 3 different categories, #1. So good stuff, man.
Big congrats on that. And it's true, winning together, that's a big thing that you that you put out there. And I saw a thing, it's like those at the bottom compete, those at the top collaborate. And you found the top of this industry and you collaborated with everybody. It's amazing.
Right. Yeah.
What are some of the misconceptions people have about wellness?
Misconception. So it really depends what part of wellness you talk about. So, what ends up happening is that you get a battle. A lot of the wellness stuff is a lot of naturopathic modalities, meaning that you're using a lot of eating healthy, nutrition, supplementation. And what happens is the traditional system, the scientific side, if there's not strong data to support it, it becomes like snake oil, which we all know, eating healthy is not snake oil, many years later. So the misconception is that the fact that sometimes there's not actual written data, right? Clinical research behind it, that it doesn't work. But that's not true. At the end of the day, it becomes very difficult to put real research behind vitamins and supplementation, because the thing is, the ROI, the return on that investment of whoever the investor is who's going to fund these studies, they'll never be able to make their money back. You can't put a patent behind vitamin C or vitamin D. You just can't. But, it has been shown that some of these nutrients do a lot of great things. Your body functions off of 35 different nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and amino acids for it to function.
Now, do you think that this would have been a different kind of process for you if you were not in the United States? Because there's so much, unhealthy foods and options and medicines that we consider a regular thing in America. If you were in the UK, would it have been a different experience for you?
It could be. And when you go into Europe and you start going into a lot of these other countries, and I'll give you an example, like Germany. Germany is so far advanced versus what we are in the United States when it comes to a lot of these alternative treatments. Actually, a lot of the lab work and a lot of these different unique studies that are done are outside of the country. They actually embrace a lot of these alternative treatments. They have a different approach. And this is, when people talk about Eastern and Western medicine, you look at Chinese medicine. The Chinese doctors, they get paid to keep you well, versus here, doctors get paid to try to get you well once you're already sick.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Now, did you have any obstacles when you were trying to collaborate with everybody on this book?
I didn't have that many obstacles. I mean, there was a few people that I wanted to get interviews, and they were too busy, and they couldn't participate. And truthfully, I don't know where I would have fit them on that cover, right? So it kind of worked out, But no difficulties. It was actually a very smooth process. It worked out quite well.
Nice. Now I know we're running up on our 30-minute limit here. So before we end it, is there any kind of life advice that you would leave for anybody watching?
So the most important thing, because obviously my expertise is in health and wellness, is we always focus so much on chasing the bag of money, right? Especially us men that are just want to be entrepreneurs and be successful, or whatever people consider successful. And when you start looking at all the stuff that's out there, cryptocurrency and this and what's going to hold the most value, what metals and everything, the most valuable currency that you'll find on planet Earth is your health. And that's why you hear people always say health is wealth, because without your health, you got absolutely nothing. And your health is going to be one of those things that you'll never trade it for anything. You'll never trade it on any stock exchange. You won't trade it on a stock market, right? So take care of your health, understand your body, get the data, look under the hood is what I call it, right? Meaning get the blood work done, see exactly what your levels are, and then start doing things to make sure you can maintain your health so you don't get sick. And I never disregard traditional medicine, because traditional medicine has saved a lot of lives, right? A lot of sick people, a lot of people with chronic illnesses have been saved by traditional medicine. But if you could take certain steps to prevent yourself from needing traditional medicine, that's the way you should go.
Absolutely, man. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. This has been a great conversation with character with Sammy Tejada. Follow him up, hit him up, get his book, live by his book. I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.
The most prestigious network in the land, the Signature Series Network.